Them being asymmetrical is useful to the function of doing what they do.
And out of alignment, what does an out of alignment mean?
I don't know, and that's the thing, I don't know what it means, because we all have different alignments. And I think patients, when they say I'm out of alignment, have different understandings even of what they're saying. Sometimes they're saying I'm not symmetrical. Okay, none of us are symmetrical perfectly. I don't think I found a perfectly symmetrical patient, and there's reasons for that. You know, it's number one, I don't think we're meant to be completely symmetrical. We all have oddities within us, and it doesn't necessarily, or it doesn't really seem to correlate with function, pain, the ability to perform sports. And in fact, certain sports require asymmetries. Okay, so tennis players, for example, will have reductions in certain types of rotation, and I don't try and get a tennis player back to being symmetrical, because them being asymmetrical is useful to the function of doing what they do. There's a certain time that symmetry is not even useful. Now then, there's patients with scoliosis, for example. Some of them, yes, experience more pain, possibly because the order blows that are going through their body. But the first person to deadlift 5 times his body weight had a massive scoliosis. Okay, so scoliosis doesn't necessarily mean you're doomed. We're looking at imaging again and trying to work out whether that correlates with pain. So looking at alignment, there's been a number of studies and good studies, large numbers of people that show that actually losing curves and things like that doesn't actually correlate with pain. There's a big study with nurses looking at the lordosis, or that curve in the neck, and whether losing that correlates with pain, and they found that it doesn't. So this obsession with curves, spinal curves, seems a little antiquated, a little old-fashioned. I think in this company, we talk about posture now as well, and probably the most famous postural syndrome, the upper cross syndrome, is here, right? These are short, these are long, therefore you're going to have neck pain. Vladimir Janda, who's done some great work, but it's losing its strength. I think that the reason that these kind of postural syndromes that people talk about catch on within the community is they're so easy to implement. It's so easy to describe a patient like that and say that's why you've got pain, and you're not aligned properly. And there is some truth in it, in that if you sit in one position all the time like that, structures are going to get annoyed because you're always loading the same ones, right? But equally, if you sit like this the whole time, other structures are going to get annoyed as well. So really it comes down to movement. It goes back to motion is lotion. Another good phrase I like to dish out with my patients is your best posture is your next posture. Just keep moving, yeah.
So just keep fiddling and shifting around.
Keep shifting, yeah. Because you want to vary the load that's going on the body. There is a caveat to that. So there is an exception to that, okay? There are certain conditions sometimes that need offloading. I've got patients with hip issues at the front. Don't sit on really low chairs because it's going to irritate the joint. Okay, if you've got piriform syndrome, stop crossing your legs. So there are certain conditions that for a time need to be offloaded, but not because people are inherently out of alignment. So let's go back to that again, because I know I've kind of deviated a little bit. There are certain professions that really base themselves on alignment. Being very cynical, it's very easy to take a radiograph, an x-ray of someone, and point out all the faults in it. Okay? What's harder is to correlate those faults with research that show that if you have those faults, you have problems. Okay? And it scares patients. Okay? They look at an image, and it's very easy to get by. You say you're out of alignment here, there, and everywhere. You need to be fixed and realigned. It's scary, and it upsets me because you're preying on a patient's vulnerability and fear. And we know that fear is the greatest modulator of pain. Okay, so when your body thinks you're in danger, okay, your likelihood that you're going to experience pain is massively increased. So there's a massive psychological component. I can tell you some stories. Maybe we can do some stories on pain another time. I'd love to talk about it more. But really, when you feel safe, the likelihood or your threshold but then your brain's saying, I'm going to give you pain. Increase. So your likelihood decreases of experiencing pain. Yeah, let that sit for a little bit. Okay? So when you're in what your brain perceives as danger, but danger could be someone showing you a scan, it could be someone saying you're likely to be in a wheelchair for 73 years if you carry on like this, completely irrelevant. Or it could be your mother-in-law or whatever it is. You're more likely to feel pain. Okay, and there's a great deal of research to back that up. You can look up the Pain Revolution group, people like Laura Mosley online to know more. So yeah, and to summarize, look, alignment is not predictive for pain, not predictive for dysfunction. People are often asymmetrical, and sometimes asymmetries are beneficial to the things that you're doing. Okay, there is a time to play with alignment, and I do sometimes in the clinic looking at offloading structures, getting people to move in different ways. This is where postural stress, your innate posture, how you happen to sit and stand, doesn't seem to have anything to do with pain now or in later life. I guess it depends how long you spend in that posture, maybe. But postural stress, so the postures we're forced into that we don't really want to be in, they often cause adaptations that aren't helpful. Yeah.
Anything that's unnatural for our, so to speak, daily life,
yes,
becomes very stressful.
That becomes a postural stressor. Yeah. So like weird desk setups, reaching above for our job all the time. You're doing a lot of housework down there in a bad position. So these are postural stresses that we don't really want to do, but we have to, and they do seem to correlate a bit more with pain. But if you look at shoulders, actually this is a cool fact, I'll say this and sign off, is that actually one of the biggest predictors for recovery from shoulder pain is your belief that you're going to get better. Okay?
Seriously?
Yes. Looking at, there was a study that looked at, I think, over 70 predictors, potential predictors. The first one was having less pain at baseline. And the next one was believing that physiotherapy or the intervention was going to get you completely better versus just a little bit better. Okay, and another one was patients' own self-efficacy. So the belief that they can do something about their own pain. So giving them the power. So when we say to a patient that you need to come in here so we can fix you, or manipulate you, crack you into alignment, or whatever it is, it could be all sorts of manual stuff or whatever we do. Whilst that can be useful sometimes, when we say that we need to do this to you in order that you get better, you are disempowering them, and their likelihood of getting better reduces. So I always try, even though I do needling, I do manipulative therapy, there are all sorts of sometimes electrotherapies, but you've got to make it clear to the patient that this isn't what's going to cure them in the end. It's often what they're going to do to then maintain and deal with it and work on the underlying factors that's going to get them better. Give the power back.
Yeah, you take away the power with the words that you use.
Oh, you've just nailed it. So
it's almost like NLP, neurolinguistic programming.
yeah, but you're NLPing them backwards.
Yeah.
But we start right at the beginning of that journey, and right from the minute they see the surgeon potentially. I'm going to bag surgeons. Surgeons do a brilliant job, okay, but they have so much power because they're the surgeon, and with great power comes great responsibility. And when they say, "Oh, look at this, Mrs. Miggins. You've got this degenerating, and this is and that," and their patient just hears that they're falling apart and going to end up in a wheelchair. And again, there's studies that can back this up. Okay, what you say to a patient and what they hear is often very different. You say these degenerative changes. What they hear is, "I'm crumbling." Okay, when you say that you've got neurological issues, what they hear is, "I'm going to be in a wheelchair." Right? Our words are very powerful, okay? And the more that you're held in esteem, okay, and surgeons are really held in esteem, the more that will hit the patient hard. And if they say that physio is, it's not the first option, or maybe it's the first option, but if it gets worse, then we'll do this and this and this. What the patient's hearing is, it's probably not going to work. You're kind of pushing me away for a little bit, and therefore their belief that it's going to get better is not there. Therefore, the chance of it getting better is just reducing. So we have to be very careful with the words that we're using. Okay, I'm Matthew Winter. I'm a physiotherapist, director of Integrative Physio, which is a clinic that I set up about 5 years ago in order that we look at the whole patient. So I really wanted to get to the root of what was going on with patients, understanding that it's not always structural, and there are other things involved in pain and in leading to injuries as well.